Hey students, Anjanette Russell here. I hope everyone is doing well and staying healthy. We are going to start talking about chapter 4, which is all about the magical experience of childbirth. I hope everyone was able to watch the video that I uploaded of my childbirthing stories with both Rochelle and Jacob, and how they were two totally different experiences. I think it's important for students and everyone to understand that just because one woman has this experience with this child doesn't mean her next experience during childbirth is going to be the same. You can talk to multiple women that have had more than one birth, and they'll tell you how this was different and that was different, and how they were expecting this with the first child, but then that didn't happen. So yeah, it's just kind of keep an open mind when you're thinking about childbirth, and we will talk about what all chapter 4 has to discuss. So I think it was interesting how it went through the processes and talking about the importance of women and how they can sometimes want to go to the hospital, or sometimes they want to have a home birth. I knew for myself that I wanted to be in a hospital setting where if something were to go wrong, we would have an unlimited supply of medical professionals there that were able to help us. Luckily with Rochelle, we didn't have any issues. Everything went very smoothly. Once the birthing started, and like I said, I pushed for 45 minutes and she was out. Unlike with Jacob, when he was born, they, after pushing for 2 hours, they had to call in the doctor, and she had to use the suction cup and suction him out of my body, which, had we have been at home, I don't know how things would have turned out. So just keep that in mind also, if you know of women that are really adamant about having a home birth, and make sure they've thought about all the possibilities that could happen while at home, and what their plan is if option A, B, C, or D does happen, because you never know until you're in the moment, and sometimes by that time it's a little late to try to figure out, oh, well, what do we want to do now, and that type of thing. I thought it was wonderful how Dr. Saponsky shared her birthing story and what it's like to give childbirth during a pandemic, and I was really a little upset about how the nurses just tried to play it off as she was having a urinary tract infection, when she's like, no, I'm in labor, I've already given birth to one child, I know what I'm feeling. So with that being said, please don't be afraid to advocate for yourself if and when you do become pregnant and enter into that process of going to the hospital to have, to birth a baby. Don't let them send you home. Don't let them, say, oh, you're going to be okay, go home and get some rest. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. You need to do that, you and your partner. You're the best advocate for yourself, because you know what your body is telling you. And their machines weren't working, and that's very unfortunate. But I'm glad that she was able to say, hey, I'm not leaving until this baby is out of my body. And that's the same thing what happened with Jacob. We went to the hospital, and we were there, and they're like, well, you're not that far along as far as your dilation, and we could send you back home. I'm like, no, I'm not going home. My due date was yesterday. I'm going home 3 days later with a baby in my arms, not in my body. So yeah, just don't be afraid to advocate for yourself for all that. I thought it was interesting how also it talked about the APGAR score. That's not really something that with Rochelle and Jacob we were really concerned about. I know some parents are really into that. Just us personally, we were more into the how are they doing with the breastfeeding part of it. And like I said, with Rochelle, first time mom, I had no idea what to expect. I thought she was nursing when really she wasn't. And then after having Jacob, and I knew what it was like to feel like, the breast milk coming out of my body, I was like, oh, he's doing it. Like, I remember literally jumping up and down with joy because he knew what to do, So once again, every child is different, every experience is different. just keep that in mind and keep that in the back of your head when you go into the nursing field or working with families. And like I said, having a midwife there for me was huge. And I think it's interesting how the book talks about how only a small percentage of births are done with midwives. And I think that's shocking. I think a lot of women don't really know a lot about midwives and what all they can do for you and what they offer. We are going to have a midwife be our guest speaker on October 22nd, I believe. So that'll be a fun live Zoom meeting that we will record, and you'll be able to ask her questions and hear what all she has to say about everything. We are still trying to make it possible to have the virtual tour of St. Mary's Birthing Center. I've been in correspondence with 2 of the nurses there, and we're just trying to figure out a way to make it happen. They're kind of trying to shut me down, and I'm like, no, we really want to do this. So we'll be in touch with that. And then on this Thursday, we are actually going to have a nurse be our guest speaker for our Zoom meeting on Thursday, and she's going to talk about what it's like to be on the receiving end of a baby coming out of a woman's body and what that's like and everything. So I'm really excited about that. This chapter, it really touched on a lot of good information, and there's a lot of facts. So please take time, read it. If you have questions, let me know. One thing I want for our discussion post to be about on ELC is if you went into the hospital and you're pregnant and you think you're going into labor and the nurses try to send you away, what would you do and how would you advocate for yourself? Okay, so for the girls, if you're pregnant and you're going into the hospital and you think you're in labor and you're very close to your due date or past your due date and you're feeling these contractions and the nurses try to send you home, what would you do? How would you advocate for yourself? And for the men of this classroom, how would you advocate for your partner that was at the hospital and you're sitting next to her and she's going through this pain and experiencing this with her body? How would you advocate for your partner to the nurses and the doctors at the hospital if they tried to send you away? So that can be your discussion post for this chapter. I kind of wish it had talked a little bit more about the after effects, like dealing with the jaundice and that type of stuff that's really common with infants. It didn't touch a whole lot on that, so I want to talk a little bit more about that with how after Rochelle was born, we had to take her to the hospital every day there's a bug flying around, sorry. We had to take her to the hospital every day for 3 days, and they would prick her heel and they would push it so far back and the blood would come out, and I just felt so bad for her because she would just scream and cry. And it's like, this is your little bitty baby and they're hurting her, and it's for a good reason, but you're just like, I want to do something to help you. And so every day her jaundice was a little bit better and everything, but it's hard as a first-time parent to experience these things. And also with her not being able to breastfeed properly as a first-time parent, I didn't know that was going on. And so we would be at home late at night and be like, oh, she hasn't had a wet diaper in 8 hours, what's going on? Now knowing everything that I know, something's not right. She's not getting the appropriate amount of fluids from my breast into her body, and so something needs to change. Luckily we have an amazing pediatrician. I highly recommend when you do get pregnant to find a pediatrician that works well for you and your family. Ask them the difficult questions. Hey, if my child gets sick at 3:30 on a Friday afternoon, is your office open, and are they willing to accept sick children at that time, or will we have to wait till Monday to get an appointment? Ask the questions like, hey, if they wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning vomiting on a Saturday, do I have to wait till Monday to call your office, or are you guys open on Saturday as well? And if you're not open, who's on call and who do I talk to? Don't be afraid to ask the difficult questions. because you're a pediatrician and you need to kind of see eye to eye and have the same kind of beliefs, and a huge trust factor it means a lot, you know. Luckily I have that with Rochelle and Jacob's pediatrician, and he's amazing. I mean, I told him, I think after about a year and a half of seeing him with Rochelle, and you know how he answers questions so clearly and thoroughly, you know, I told him, I'm like, you're lucky you're already married, because I would want to marry you because you're so amazing. And he just laughed and thought that was the greatest thing ever. He's been doing this, being a local pediatrician in Athens, for several decades, so he knows what he's doing. He's seen a lot, which is nice to know that, you know, I'm not his first patient and that type of thing. So yeah, do your research, find a good pediatrician, definitely before you have your baby. That is huge. I feel like that's not a lot that people really talk about, but it needs to be known that that's important. So yeah, that's about all I have to say about chapter 4. It's a great chapter, but like I said, I hope you were able to listen to my birthing stories, because that really gets into the nitty-gritty of, you know, what I went through with Jacob being breached and all that. And yeah, childbirth, it's an amazing, incredible experience. There's nothing that you can say to try to put it into words after you're done and you get to hold your baby for the first time. It's beautiful, you know. I asked Josh this weekend, we were talking about it, and I was like, what was it like, you know, holding Rochelle for the first time? And he was like, it was the most amazing thing I'd ever done in my entire life, you know. Nothing else in the world mattered. It was just, you know, her and I. She was in my arms, I was holding her, you know, she's a part of me, like I helped create her. And it was just so beautiful listening to him talk about that. And then he was like, I think we should have another child. I'm like, no, we're good. 2's the perfect number for us. We're done. Yeah, I'm too old for that. So yeah, that's what I have to say about childbirth in chapter 4. So now I want to do a little bit of talking about the position paper for the breastfeeding article. It is on ELC under the section labeled supplemental articles for position papers. You should be able to open it up. It's an attachment. So read the article critically, you know, think about what you want to talk about in your position paper, and when you're done reading the article, I want you to pick a side. After reading that article, are you more for breastfeeding newborns and infants, or do you think formula is better? Right? So you get to pick, and then have the facts to back up your statement, right? 2 to 3 pages, double spaced. Don't stress out about it. If you have questions, shoot me an email. It's not due until Thursday, September 24th, which is like a week and 2 days from now, and it's due at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ELC, and there will be a place for you to upload your paper on ELC. And if you want to upload it and say, hey, this is kind of where I'm going, where do you think I am I heading in the right direction, shoot me an email and say, hey, here's my paper, what do you think? You know, I'll be more than happy to look over it. It's worth 20 points. The rubric is also on ELC, so you can kind of see how they'll be graded. But yeah, you guys will be great. I have full faith in you. But yeah, I'm excited about hearing your position and your take on the breastfeeding or not breastfeeding. If you say, I think formula is best, or you think breast milk is best, that's not going to affect your grade at all. It's going to be how well you convey what you're trying to convey in your paper. Okay? So you guys will be amazing. Like I said, on Thursday at 11:10, we're going to have a ER nurse come and be a part of our Zoom. I've sent her a couple questions that she's got to think about. So if you have questions that you want her to answer, if you want to email those to me, or you can ask her when we're chatting on Thursday, that would be awesome. She's super excited about having this opportunity to speak to you guys, so I'm excited about that. And yeah, I hope everyone is doing well, staying healthy, and please let me know if you have any questions at all about anything. I hope you take care. Okay, thanks so much. Bye.